Hi, everybody. It's Nathaniel Avila reporting from Dallas County, and I'm here with. Who am I here with?
Hi, I'm Hanyu.
All right. And can you please explain what this podcast is? This is an all new podcast. This is the first episode.
Yeah, so we're going to be, I guess, talking about supernatural phenomenons, different things that may or may not be explained by natural or scientific methods, or just your own personal mind doing the trick.
Right. So yeah, so we're probably gonna do like maybe like a half hour to an hour long podcast for this. Let's see how it'll go. And so tell me, like, what's your interest in these types of things?
Oh, I'm not quite sure. I've always been interested in those types of things since I was a young child. Uh, One of my favorite things from one of my shows growing up was about the unexplained phenomenons or spectacles that happen that come and go without explanation. I've just always been drawn to such things.
Yeah, really cool. So, what are we talking about today?
Uh, Today I've chosen to kind of talk, or we have chosen to talk about the Hessdalen Lights. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I
I
might not.
I,
I'm sorry.
I think it's pronounced
Uh,
Hessdalen.
Hessdalen.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about the Hessdalen Lights, which are unexplained lights observed in a 7.5 stretch of the Hessdalen Valley in rural central Norway. So, what made you like choose this particular topic for today?
Well, this topic kind of comes close to my fascination, especially since it's kind of almost the light itself. But that'd probably be a story for another time. But it comes close to the will of the wisp for Scotland. So, knowing about lights that just appear out of nowhere, that just hover, may or may not talk, it's very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get started with what this Hessdalen lights are. So the lights are of unknown origin, so we don't really know what they are or where they came from. But they appear both day and night and seem to float through and above the valley. They are usually bright white, yellow, or red and can appear above or below the horizon. The duration of the phenomenon may be a few seconds to well over an hour. So sometimes the lights move with enormous speed, at other times they seem to slowly sway back and forth. Yet in other occasions, they hover in midair. So unusual lights have been reported in the region since at least the 1930s. Especially high activity occurred between December 1981 to mid 1984, during which the lights were being observed 15 to 20 times per week, attracting many overnight tourists who arrive for sighting. As of 2010, the number of observation has dwindled with only 10 to 20 sightings made yearly. So that's basically an overview of what the Hessdalen lights are. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I love that, there was so much going on in that day, but now it just seems like it's slowly going out. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're still happening, which makes me very upset, kind of, because it's one of those, maybe it's kind of like the legends and stuff. It's slowly dwindling with the more people and technology forget the legends and things.
Mm,
And, because it's dwindling, that means no one's trying to see them because everyone's trying to look through your technology and it's not technology driven.
mm,
So it's slowly just dying, which my brain is like, I get it. Technology is wonderful, but sometimes technology cannot show the thing that your natural eyes is going to show.
okay.
And even though you don't know if what you're seeing is what you're seeing. That's the beauty of life. And telling a friend, this is what I think happened to me. And the story spreads and it gets renewed and known again.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's like technology is the reason why there's only like 10 to 20 sightings a year?
Yeah, I think like any other types of beings or spirits or spectrals or legends that we've talked about in the earlier days, technology wasn't a huge thing. Photography, you just see a blur because they couldn't take pictures as fast and as well as it can today.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the times you just see what happens because it just happens in front of you, and then it goes away or it stays and you try to touch it, try to grasp what are you seeing. And I think sometimes that's what we're missing today. The legends were passed down from a friend to a friend, from an aunt to an aunt, and down through the generations. So if that stops, how does things live on, or is that what keeps them alive?
Mm-hmm. So would you suggest people to go to Norway into the Hessdalen Valley to see if they can see the lights?
I would definitely encourage those who might be interested to do such things. And you're more likely to possibly encounter the lights if you don't have technology. Now, maybe older technology, like maybe an old camera, maybe even a Polaroid might actually be okay. But you trying to get it with your iPhone 12 may not happen, and you'll just be there. It's like, yeah, I went to Norway, but I didn't see the lights that I was trying to go and get. And you never know, they might have been right in front of you, but your camera can't see it.
Yeah. Was that your white person voice?
That's just like one of my other voices, yes.
Oh my gosh. She's not white, guys, so that's why.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
That's just like the Valley Girl voice, and then there's the computer. Anyway, we're getting off track. I can do this all day.
Okay. So, have you seen those videos where they were like supposedly of sightings, but they're like super, super, super low quality?
Yeah, I have.
What do you think of those?
I think that's part of the lore. It's the same with Bigfoot. You only get these partial sightings, and you're like, but is it real? Is it not? Like, that's the thing with technology, or, well, with your own mind is it actually something that you saw, or was it a part of your imagination, or is it too hot like the summer sun of Dallas right now, trying to burn a figment of our imagination through our eyes with the lights that's coming through? But it's almost as bright as our own star. So is it really there? Can I touch it? Can I feel it? Or will it run away?
Yeah. So are you like in the camp of the things that are unsolved should stay unsolved in order to preserve the legend that surrounds it?
I think it depends on the legend.
Really?
I think some legends should not be solved so that they can be preserved. Whereas there's some that I wish would come to light and be true.
Mm-hmm.
Because then that would explain some things in our own existence that we didn't know existed. But that one thing that becomes true is like, click. Ah, yes, that is why.
Right. Okay, so now, like, people have tried to explain these lights in Hessdalen in Norway. So let's get into some of those because since 1983, there has been ongoing scientific research referred to as Project Hessdalen, initiated by UFO Norge and UFO Sweden. So this project was active as field investigations during 1983 and 1985. A group of students, engineers, journalists collaborated as the Triangle Project in 1997 and 1998 and recorded the lights in a pyramid shape that bounced up and down. So in 1998, the Hessdalen Automatic Measurement Station was set up in the valley to register and record the appearance of lights. So later, a program named EMBLA was initiated to bring together established scientists and students into researching these lights. So leading research institutions are Osford University College and the Italian National Research Council. So now these big universities are trying to explain these lights and researching them in the 1980s and the 1990s. What is your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, I mean, that's the reason why we have that, is that someone wants to explain how it goes. I mean, you're looking, one of the hypotheses of the lights actually, existing is it's a chemical combustion that happens between different elements that occur in that area. Mm-hmm. But being able to, try to figure out and do this, the hypotheses need to be there for them to see, is it true or not? And them studying it, I mean, does it actually say how many lights they've seen during the project? If anything has actually done or seen? Or have they not been because they're trying to use, again, with technology to see something they can't see?
So you think the reason why they haven't been getting a lot of headway is because of the technology that they've been using?
I mean, if you don't want to be seen, would you actually want to stay in front of the camera?
Probably not.
I mean, there might be a few things that actually, want to play tricks. It's almost like children. Mm-hmm. Hey, you go and do that thing. No, you go do that thing. It's like doing a bet. Oh, just fly past it. See what happens. I mean, you never know what could possibly happen or not. And them it might actually be recording of some lights happening, but still be a blur as if they're just going past the camera and none staying in front of the camera. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Sorry.
So are you like in the camp that these lights are sentient in a way?
Well, as I stated at the beginning, they are, it feels like, closely related to the will of the wisp, which help you get lost or found out in the woods of Scotland.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they may have a voice and sometimes they're not. Mischievous beings always exist.
Mm-hmm. So you're like I know that will-o'-the-wisps have since been like reintroduced to modern society through the film Brave. So more people are more aware of such folkloric cryptids. So do you think that these beings actually exist? And since they're Scottish, what are they doing in Norway?
Well, it's kind of like us humans. Mm-hmm. Before we got here, we migrated. Mm-hmm. Everyone migrated around. So we don't know as of right now that they could be a distant cousin, possibly to those that moved into Norway, hitched on, possibly a descendant of some Scottish person that decided to live in Norway and brought some of his ancestors with, and that's how the lights became.
Okay.
It's a possibility, but we don't know because we just think they're light.
Oh yeah. So let's go into like some of the hypotheses that these major universities are coming up with. Like despite the ongoing research, there's no convincing explanation for this phenomenon. So despite all this, it's still unknown. So there are numerous working hypotheses and even more speculations. So one possible explanation attributes the phenomenon to an incompletely understood combustion involving hydrogen, oxygen, and sodium, which occurs in Hessdalen because of the large deposits of scandium there, which is another element. And another recent hypothesis suggests that the lights are formed by a cluster of microscopic colloid crystals in a plasma produced by the ionization of air and dust by alpha particles during radon decay in the dusty atmosphere. So, several physical properties, including oscillation, geometric structure, and light spectrum, observed in the Hessdalen Lights, which they sometimes abbreviate to HL, can be explained through the dust plasma model. So, radon decay produces alpha particles responsible by helium emissions in the HL spectrum and radioactive elements such as polonium. So, in 2004, Teodorani showed an occurrence where a higher level of radioactivity on rocks was detected near the area where a large light ball was reported. So computer simulations show that dust immersed in ionized gas can organize itself into double helixes, like some occurrences of the Hessdalen Lights. Dusty plasma may also form in this structure. So that's some of the ideas that they're coming up with, is that it's either combustion or it's just like plasma ionized dust particles that's just coming out of the area.
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid thing, and if you can possibly get all of those elements all together in a lab and can shoot those in the day and the nighttime, I mean, it could possibly be an explanation, but does it stay for the amount of time people have seen it?
I don't know.
Does it stay for the few minutes? Does it stay for the hour? I mean, it is a hypothesis, but that's all it is. It's just a hypothesis.
Yeah, it is. It is just a hypothesis. None of this has been proven. It's just like people saying like this could happen. It could be this, but it's not definite. So
No.
yeah. So and another hypothesis explains the Hessdalen Lights as a product of piezoelectricity generated under specific rock strains, because many crystal rocks in the Hessdalen Valley include quartz grains which produce an immense charge density. Now, piezoelectricity is an electric charge that accumulates in certain solid materials in response to applied mechanical stress. So that's another idea that is. It's just this other thing that's happening. And the only basis they have for this is because the crystal rocks in the Hessdalen Valley have quartz grains, which could produce a charge density. But again, that's just another theory. It's not proven.
True.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into what this piezoelectricity thing is. So in a 2011 paper, so this was very recent. So in a 2011 paper based on the dusty plasma theory of the Hessdalen Lights, Gerson Paiva and Carlton Taft suggested that piezoelectricity of quartz cannot explain a peculiar property assumed by the Hessdalen Lights phenomenon, the presence of geometrical structures in its center. So Paiva and Taft have shown a mechanism of light ball cluster formation in the Hessdalen Valley by nonlinear interaction of ion acoustic and dusty acoustic waves with low frequency electromagnetic waves and dusty plasmas. So this theoretical velocity of ejected light balls is about 33,000 feet per second. So that's how fast it's going. It's going 33,000 feet per second. So in a good agreement with the observed velocity of some ejected light bulbs, and it is estimated at 66,000 feet per second. So the central ball is white, while the ejected balls are always green in color. So this ascribed to radiation pressure produced by the interaction between very low frequency electromagnetic waves and atmospheric ions, which is present in the central white colored ball through ion acoustic waves. Oxygen ions with green emission lines are probably the only ones transported by these waves. Electric bands of oxygen ions occur in auroral spectra. So they're equating the lights to that of like the northern lights that you see in the like Arctic Circle. So the estimated temperature of the Hessdalen Lights is about 8,540 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are very hot. So at this temperature, the rate coefficients of dissociative recombination will be about 10 to the negative 8th cubic centimeter per second for the oxygen ions and 10 to the negative 7th power cubic centimeters per second for the nitrogen ions. Thus, the Hessdalen Lights plasma and nitrogen ions will decompose more rapidly than the oxygen ions. Only ionic species are transported by an ion acoustic waves. Therefore, oxygen ions will dominate the ejected green light in the Hessdalen Lights, presenting a negative band of oxygen with electronic transmission, with electronic transition after an ionic acoustic wave formation. So, are you staying with me?
Yeah, I'm staying with you.
Okay, great. Because there's a lot of chemistry.
Barely. I know.
So, Paiva and Taft presented a model for resolving the apparently contradictory spectrum observed in the Hessdalen Lights. So the spectrum is nearly flat at the top with steep sides, due to the effect of optical thickness in the Bremsstrahlung spectrum, which I believe is electromagnetic radiation produced by the deceleration of a charged particle when deflected by another charged particle. At low frequencies, self-absorption modifies the spectrum to follow the Rayleigh-Jeans part of the black body curve. Such a spectrum is typical of dense ionized gas. Additionally, the spectrum produced in the Bremsstrahlung process is flat up to the cutoff frequency and falls off exponentially at higher frequencies. This sequence of events forms the typical spectrum of Hessdalen Lights phenomenon when the atmosphere is clear, with no fog. According to the model, the spatial color distribution of luminous balls currently observed in Hessdalen Lights phenomenon is produced by electrons accelerated by electric fields during rapid fracture of piezoelectric rocks under the ground. So in 2014, Jadir Monari published a new HL model involving a geological-like battery. Thus, two sides of the valley were electrodes, and the river Hestia can be acting as an electrolyte. Gas bubbles rise to the air and can become electronically charged, producing gas luminescence and the HL phenomenon. So that is like a breakdown of the closest thing we have to an explanation of the Hessdalen Lights.
So, in simplest terms, is, several gases coming together, meeting in the middle through this little gas bubble, and it explodes in the bubble, and that's how you can see the light.
Pretty much.
Sorry, I'm simple stupid sometimes.
No, I can't follow. It's hard to follow it because it's really advanced chemistry and physics that's going on. And,
yes.
Yes, and that's pretty much the deal of the Hessdalen Lights. Do you think like the knowledge of basically the lights, or the conclusion that these scientists came to, that it was really just a bunch of chemicals just being formed into a ball and then just exploding, do you think that takes away from like the phenomenon of the Hessdalen Lights?
I mean, that could possibly divert some people from seeing it. Like, oh, there's the explanation. That's why those lights actually happen. And then there's a few of us that's like, are we sure that's exactly how this happened? Did you do it in the lab? Can I see the lights without actually having to go to the valley to see them? And if we did go to the valley and still saw the light, do we come back radioactive just for being in said valley and seeing the light? Or will we have problems breathing, because that is different types of gases that could possibly have negative effects on us small human beings. Us being there was the cause of that. So one of those is like, yes, you may have given some people a very scientific explanation, but can we see that is actually proven?
Yeah. And also, I've always been under the impression that these lights were basically being observed from afar. Like, you're here, and then it's all the way over there, and you see the lights.
Yeah, and it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said, it's been going on since 1981. The 1930s. It's been going on since the 1930s.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we didn't have as much technology then. And so, of course, they might have been closer because they didn't know what they were getting involved to. But more technology today, seeing what chemicals imbalances and knowing about radiation and how it could be possibly harmful over time and not harmful over time. Have they blocked it off so people can't go down into the valley and see the light?
I don't think so.
Does Norway have it as a tourist trap like any other? Come down, see the light. Is it real? Is it not? I don't know. Pay your money.
I'm pretty sure they did that I'm pretty sure they would do it as a tourist trap. I don't see why they wouldn't.
I mean, Area 51, or the area around there, is definitely, and so is Roswell, lots of tourist traps there. But then there's still stories that says, oh yeah, back in my day, I got picked up by so-and-so, and there's things that happen. And I can't explain it, and I never have them right since.
Okay. Do you have like a personal like theory of what these lights could be?
Not a personal theory on what the lights could be. I mean, like we said earlier, they could possibly be a very far away cousin of the Will-o'-the-Wisp, or they could be Norway's own personal version of their own fairies.
So you're gonna like go with that? It could be fairies. It's a fairy.
I'm actually leaning more towards the distant cousins of Will-o'-the-Wisp.
Okay. Yeah.
Only because they come and go, but unlike Will-o'-the-Wisp, which seem to have more of an established mind of their own and trickery, these lights don't seem to have that established yet. Like, there's, in my theory, if they are just a cousin of it, they haven't fully realized and haven't interacted with enough people to make mischief enough to just move from place to place and get humans lost. And they just show up thinking, okay, I exist. This is how we're doing existing right now. Okay, this is hard. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to try that again later.
Okay.
Maybe in another couple of years.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
So they're like kind of like cicadas, where they like hibernate for 17 years and then wake up and then go back to sleep.
The possibility. Haven't you heard cicadas scream? Like, why are you screaming? Shut up.
Oh snap! Yeah, I've heard my share of cicadas.
It was like, oh god, it's that season again. The trees are screaming. No.
Yeah, like if these lights were observed by early man, there's probably no doubt that they probably would have formed some type of mythology around them.
I mean, the mythology exists as the moment since we're talking about it.
What was that?
And the mythology kind of exists because we're talking about it. I mean,
yeah.
Like I said, you give things life when you start thinking, are they true or not, possibly.
Oh, yeah.
And those who end up listening to the podcast will slowly get their own idea of whether it's true or not. Whether you want to go with the scientific explanation or do your own.
Or it's the will-o'-the-wisps. Ooh. So are these things like scary? Do they wish us harm? You don't think so?
Well, I mean, even in any of these theories and observations before now, nothing has said that they've actually caused any harm. There's not been death counts or things. Yeah. No one's gone missing from looking at the lights, unlike will-o'-the-wisp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
So it could be a little bit of anything. I mean, at the moment, it doesn't seem like they harm anyone. They just kind of show up and float there for a moment, and then, we're going to leave.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the Hessdalen Lights. That's all the information that is available as of right now about them. And so that's where we'll end it here today. So it's been really interesting talking about the Hessdalen Lights. Are they fairies? Are they will-o'-the-wisps? Are they just combustions that just are just chemicals just poofing in and out of existence? We'll never know. And that's why this mystery is unsolved. So yeah, that's the Hessdalen Lights. And we'll come back with you guys next week and we'll talk about a different thing. Okay? Bye, you guys.
See ya. Till next.
Thank you for listening to A Vision Podcast, home of wacky talkies, The Kingdom, Evil Exists, and many more.